You lock your back door, turn off the patio lights, and assume the wild stays in the woods. But the woods are moving. In places like Morris County, New Jersey, the tree line is no longer a barrier. It is a staging ground. For decades, American suburbs were built on a simple geographical promise. The asphalt belonged to us, and the dense Appalachian timber belonged to them. That border is collapsing right in front of us. We are witnessing a profound spatial shift along the East Coast. Black bears, once driven back to the deep ridges and isolated state parks, are bleeding into residential grids. They are not just passing through on their way to deeper wilderness. They are moving in. Look at the layout of a modern New Jersey subdivision. Cul-de-sacs back right up against secondary forest growth. Homeowners strip away the underbrush to extend their lawns, inadvertently creating perfectly clear lines of sight and movement for large mammals. A 400-pound predator can stand in the shadows of a mature oak, entirely invisible, while a family watches television just 20 feet away. The physical buffer that once kept human and animal separate has been erased by our own zoning and landscaping. Homeowners in these transition zones rely on the illusion of distance. They think a bear needs miles of untouched wilderness to navigate. The reality, captured on surveillance cameras across suburban Pennsylvania and upstate New York, is much more unsettling. Theirs are actively mapping our neighborhoods. They memorize the blind spots between street lamps. They calculate the exact distance from the forest edge to the nearest driveway. They use concrete drainage ditches, golf course tree lines, and narrow municipal greenbelts as private highways. These thin strips of vegetation allow them to bypass busy arterial roads and slip completely undetected into the heart of human territory. This is not a random or accidental wandering. The American black bear is fundamentally redrawing its territorial map, overriding centuries of hardwired avoidance. A suburban backyard is no longer perceived as a hostile or alien environment. It is simply a new type of topography. The manicured lawns, the 6-foot privacy fences, the dense decorative hedges, they offer the same cover as natural brush, but with smooth, easy terrain. When a bear crosses the asphalt of a residential street, it does not act like an animal caught in the open. It moves with the deliberate pacing of an apex predator inspecting its new domain. The physical boundary between the wild and the domestic has completely dissolved. The forest edge is no longer a wall, but an open door. And as they cross that invisible line, night after night, the animals are systematically evaluating exactly what this new concrete terrain holds. What they uncover in this paved landscape completely rewrites the basic math of their survival. A 400-pound black bear operates as a massive biological engine. Keeping that machine running requires relentless fueling. In the deep woods of the Appalachians or the dense timber of upstate New York, extracting calories is a grueling daily job. A lone male might spend 18 hours a day tearing apart rotting logs to eat carpenter ants or delicately stripping tiny wild blueberries from thorny bushes. The return on investment is brutally low. Black bears lack the complex digestive systems of true herbivores, meaning they only extract a fraction of the nutrients from the huge volumes of plant matter they consume. Every movement burns precious energy, and natural foraging is a constant race against a caloric deficit. Then they smell a subdivision in Connecticut. The scent of a standard 96-gallon plastic trash bin wafts into the tree line, carrying a chemical signature of pure fat. To a hungry predator, human waste is a high-yield biological gold mine. A half-eaten pepperoni pizza, a pool of stale frying oil, or a discarded jar of peanut butter packs more readily available energy than a bear could harvest from hours of scouring the forest floor for acorns. The reward is astronomical. Homeowners unwittingly leave out highly concentrated calorie sources. A single 40-pound bag of premium dog food left on a back porch contains enough dense protein to sustain a large bear for over a week. The survival math changes instantly. Ripping open a plastic garbage bag takes 3 seconds and requires 0 physical strain. Inside, a bear can ingest 5,000 calories in a single sitting. To get that same intake in the forest, it would have to walk up to 15 miles and consume tens of thousands of individual berries. Our waste provides a nearly 100% profit margin in their daily energy budget. Digestion is effortless. Refined sugars hit the bloodstream immediately, and fat reserves build up at an unnatural speed. The sheer density of human food triggers a massive dopamine response in the animal, hardwiring the location of the score into its spatial memory. This undeniable caloric density explains why deterrents like loud noises or motion sensor lights often fail. The primal drive to secure massive amounts of easy energy overpowers their innate caution. They are following the most efficient fuel source available on the continent. The suburban garbage route becomes a high-stakes buffet that overrides centuries of instinct. They stop wasting time digging through the underbrush and start learning the weekly municipal pickup schedules. They memorize which houses leave the garage doors cracked open. This dependency does more than just fatten up a solitary wanderer. It fundamentally alters the behavioral code of the local population in real time. The reliable feast found in our backyards becomes the new baseline for survival. The driveway is no longer just a temporary feeding ground, but a highly profitable territory. And once an animal discovers a permanent solution to its hunger, it anchors its entire life cycle right to our doorstep. Claiming that suburban environment does more than change a single animal's diet, it alters the future of the entire species in that area. A female black bear navigating the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains is not just feeding her own massive frame. She is actively running a masterclass in suburban exploitation. Bear cubs are born as completely blank slates. They spend up to 18 months shadowing their mother, absorbing every rule of survival through intense observation. In a natural forest, she would teach them to bolt at the snap of a twig or the scent of a predator. But on the residential streets of Asheville or Gatlinburg, the curriculum has completely changed. Watch a 250-pound sow lead a pair of spring cubs onto a wooden deck. She does not sneak. She walks directly into the glow of a security light, stands on her hind legs, and rips a bird feeder off its iron hook. A delivery truck rumbles past on the street just 30 feet away. The headlights sweep across the yard. The mother does not even look up from the shattered plastic and scattered sunflower seeds. To a cub, this silent demonstration is absolute law. They learn that a running engine is not a threat. They learn that the glare of a halogen bulb means dinner is served. She shows them how to hook a sharp claw under the rubber lid of a sanitation bin and use their body weight to pop it open. The cubs mimic her movements perfectly. The crucial survival instinct, the hardwired terror of the human scent, is being culturally erased in a single generation. A homeowner spots them and tries to scare them off. A man steps out onto his porch and yells. He bangs 2 metal pots together. The sow simply pins her ears back, finishes chewing a discarded bagel, and slowly ambles away without dropping her heart rate. Her cubs process this entire interaction. They register that the shouting human is completely harmless. The man makes loud noises, but he has no teeth and no claws. He does not strike. The human is permanently downgraded from an apex predator to a minor, noisy annoyance. By the time those cubs reach their 2nd year, they can weigh over 100 pounds and carry 0 instilled fear of our species. They do not know what an untouched pine forest even looks like. They belong to a distinct, new breed of urban predator. These young bears treat a locked screen door not as a barrier, but as a flimsy puzzle to be casually ripped open. They know exactly how to press their growing weight against a fence until the cedar posts snap. They recognize the hydraulic hiss of a garbage truck as a signal to follow the route. We are no longer dealing with a displaced wild animal that wandered into town by mistake. We are facing a highly adapted resident that views our architecture as its personal territory. But a residential grid can only support so many of these fearless locals. As this street-smart generation reaches physical maturity, the most profitable dumpsters and quietest patios quickly reach capacity. The neighborhood fills up with confident adults claiming their permanent blocks. The available suburban space shrinks, and the territorial pressure inside the local population begins to build. That internal tension does not stay contained on the asphalt. The squeeze happening in the suburbs is violently matched by a hidden demographic crisis deep inside the unbroken timber. The wild is completely full. Take the vast state forests of central Pennsylvania or the rugged foothills of the Berkshires. To a casual hiker, the woods look limitless. But to a male black bear, the wilderness is a highly restricted grid. A 500-pound boar claims up to 15 square miles of prime habitat. He marks his boundaries by standing on his hind legs, biting into pine bark as high as his jaws can reach. That single gouge is a physical threat. It signals to every other bear in the valley that this territory is aggressively defended. He patrols this perimeter for miles, leaving tufts of fur on scratching trees to reinforce his claim. And older males do not negotiate. When conservation efforts succeed and the natural population booms, the available real estate vanishes. Every ridge, every productive berry patch, every freshwater creek is guarded by a massive boar. This creates a brutal eviction cycle for the younger generation. A 2-year-old male, recently separated from his mother, suddenly finds himself in a war zone. He weighs maybe 140 pounds. He completely lacks the fighting experience to challenge a scarred adult. When a territorial dispute breaks out over a dead deer or a mating ground, it is not a bluff. It is a lethal pursuit. The heavy boar charges. The young male has to run. He runs until he physically runs out of forest. Behind him is certain death or a crippling injury. In front of him is a new residential development on the edge of the Poconos. This young exile does not walk into the subdivision because he is hunting for food. He is literally pushed off the map. These inexperienced males become displaced refugees in our neighborhoods. They are terrified. They desperately try to navigate a maze of vinyl siding and chain link fences. They huddle inside concrete storm drains during the afternoon to avoid any sudden encounters with humans or neighborhood dogs. They sleep directly under backyard trampolines, treating the stretched canvas like a dense thicket to stay hidden from view. This demographic overflow turns suburban streets into a dumping ground for the forest's outcast class. A cornered predator is incredibly unpredictable. He does not know the neighborhood rules or the garbage schedules yet. He just knows he absolutely cannot go back to the timber. He remains trapped in this asphalt purgatory by the sheer volume of his own species. Yet even if he manages to find a sliver of unclaimed shade in the brush behind a strip mall, a completely different pressure is already preparing to flush him out into the open air. That narrow strip of brush might offer a temporary shield from older rivals, but it provides absolutely zero defense against the August sun. As summer temperatures across the eastern seaboard spike past 95 degrees Fahrenheit, the geography of the suburbs turns actively hostile. A black bear is wrapped in a thick double coat of dark fur designed to survive freezing mountain winters. In a severe heat wave, that same fur acts as a lethal thermal trap. The animal cannot cool itself by sweating. It relies entirely on heavy panting and pressing its bare belly against damp earth to dump excess body heat. But modern subdivisions are paved over. The asphalt and concrete radiate surface temperatures well over 130 degrees, turning those small green belts into suffocating ovens. Deep in a national park, a bear would simply submerge itself in a shaded mountain stream or dig a shallow pit in the cool mud of a riverbank. But seasonal droughts are shrinking those natural watersheds into cracked clay. The creeks run completely dry. Pushed to the absolute brink of heatstroke, the bear is forced to abandon its hiding spot. The physical need to lower its core temperature immediately overrides any lingering fear of human activity. It breaks cover in the middle of a blazing Tuesday afternoon, jaws wide open, saliva dripping onto the pavement, aggressively hunting for any source of relief. It finds a perfectly filtered 20,000-gallon oasis behind a wooden privacy fence. Residential swimming pools from the hills of North Carolina to the sprawling suburbs of northern Georgia have become vital thermal refuges for desperate predators. A homeowner glances out the kitchen window and sees a 300-pound bear submerged in the shallow end, resting its broad head on the concrete coping. It completely ignores the chemical sting of the chlorine and the floating plastic toys. The cold water drops the animal's internal temperature instantly, flooding its system with relief. Once a bear registers that a specific backyard holds a permanent, drought-proof water source, it permanently anchors that exact address into its survival map. Water is not the only escape they exploit. The deep shade and cool soil along the foundation draw them directly to the walls of the house itself. A bear, desperate to escape a 100-degree afternoon, does not care about property lines. It will hook its claws into an aluminum patio screen and effortlessly rip the mesh away just to lie flat on the shaded tile floor. They splinter the wooden doors of insulated outbuildings and squeeze their heavy bodies into climate-controlled garages. The thick concrete slab of a suburban foundation feels deeply cold against their overheated skin. Homeowners walk out to grab a lawnmower and find a heavily panting predator sprawled next to their minivan, completely unwilling to leave the cool air. This thermal stress strips away the last layers of nocturnal caution. The heat makes the animals incredibly irritable, exhausted, and physically cornered by the weather itself. They are no longer just sneaking through the yard at midnight to steal a quick meal. They are actively occupying human recreational spaces in broad daylight, physically claiming the pool deck, the porch, and the garage floor. This bold, daytime occupation erases the final unspoken boundary between the homeowner and the wildlife. And when a startled resident walks outside to reclaim their property from a hot, frustrated predator, the interaction rapidly spirals out of control. That sudden face-to-face encounter on the concrete patio shifts the dynamic in a fraction of a second. The homeowner waves their arms and shouts, expecting the animal to scramble over the fence. But the bear does not bolt. It holds its ground, drops its heavy head, and locks eyes with the resident. The shouting registers as mere noise, while the bear actively calculates the physical threat, standing just 10 feet away. It processes the human lack of weapons and the erratic body language. In this critical moment, the internal switch flips from passive scavenger to active challenger. Household pets are the first to experience this lethal reassessment. A 70-pound Labrador charges across the lawn, barking to defend its territory. In a remote wilderness, a bear might instinctively retreat from a loud canine, associating the sound with a hunting pack. But this suburban resident has spent months observing our fenced-in lives. It knows the dog is alone. The bear does not swat blindly in panic. It steps forward and strikes with calculated intent, delivering hundreds of pounds of force behind a single paw. The dog is instantly silenced. To the bear, the pet is no longer a noisy annoyance. It is a slow source of protein. This is the exact threshold where casual tolerance morphs into predatory testing. The animal is systematically probing the neighborhood defenses and finding them completely hollow. When a frantic owner rushes into the yard, swinging a plastic broom to save their pet, the bear does not back down. It pivots toward the human and executes an explosive bluff charge. It covers 15 feet in less than 2 seconds, stopping just short of contact. If the terrified homeowner turns to run or stumbles backward on the wet grass, the fleeing motion triggers a hardwired hunting reflex. The stumbling human is instantly reclassified as prey. This shift in perception leads to a terrifying new pattern of unprovoked stalking across East Coast communities. Residents in the rural subdivisions of Connecticut and the foothills of the Shenandoah Valley report black bears silently tracking them. A woman walking down her driveway to check the morning mail notices a dark shape moving parallel to her behind a row of cedar hedges. The bear is matching her pace step for step. Its head hangs below its shoulders in a classic stalking posture. It moves on padded paws, deliberately closing the distance to just a few yards. It is not protecting a garbage can or defending a cub. It is actively evaluating the vulnerability of an oblivious target. The animal tests the perimeter of human safety, learning exactly how close it can get before the target reacts. But this chilling daytime surveillance is just the precursor to a much more intimate invasion. As the autumn temperatures finally crash and the first frost hits the asphalt, these emboldened predators begin looking for a permanent place to wait out the freezing months. Finding that secure sanctuary for the frozen months used to demand a grueling trek back into the deep timber. In a natural winter, a black bear must burn thousands of precious calories just excavating a tight cavity under the roots of a fallen oak. It is a miserable shelter, exposed to freezing ground moisture and biting Appalachian winds. But a predator already intimately familiar with suburban architecture easily recognizes a massive structural upgrade. Modern residential homes are essentially giant, artificially heated caves built on concrete footings. The animal quickly calculates the difference in survival costs. Why dig through a frozen hillside when a perfectly dry, heavily insulated chamber sits completely empty right behind a flimsy wooden lattice? They systematically target the crawl spaces. A 400-pound boar is surprisingly fluid. He can flatten his enormous body to squeeze through a foundation vent designed for standard plumbing access. The intrusion is methodical and silent. He hooks his claws into the wire mesh, bends it back, and pulls his heavy form into the darkness. Once inside, the bear immediately gets to work dismantling the thick rolls of fiberglass insulation. He shreds the pink batting and piles it against the block walls to construct a massive synthetic nest. This environment is an evolutionary masterpiece. It remains a temperate 55 degrees while a January blizzard rages outside. The thermal efficiency of our construction allows the bear to conserve an incredible amount of stored fat, drastically increasing its chances of emerging strong in the spring. The animal enters a state of winter torpor, dropping its heart rate to just 8 beats per minute. This creates a deeply unsettling physical proximity. A family in a sprawling New Jersey ranch house goes about their December routine completely oblivious to the apex predator, taking slow, shallow breaths just 18 inches below their carpet. The homeowners walk across the living room floor every morning. The bear hears the heavy thud of their boots on the plywood subfloor. It listens to the television echoing down through the floor vents. At night, a low, rhythmic rumbling vibrates up through the drywall. The residents simply dismiss it as the furnace kicking on or old water pipes shuddering in the cold air. They have absolutely no idea they are sharing their foundation with a dormant beast. This artificial denning is a hidden, ticking threat. Black bear torpor is not a deep, unbreakable coma. The animal is highly responsive and can wake up in a matter of seconds if suddenly disturbed. When a local contractor slides under the house in late February to inspect a leaking drain, he is crawling directly into an occupied lair. His flashlight beam sweeps across a mountain of torn vapor barriers and catches the reflection of 2 wide, completely alert eyes. In the pitch-black confinement of a dirt trench, a startled predator has 0 escape routes. It cannot turn around or run away. Its only biological option is to lash out with devastating, immediate force to clear the threat. The physical gap between human safety and raw wilderness has shrunk from a distant tree line to the thickness of a single floorboard. The animals simply wait out the winter storms, wrapped in the radiating warmth of our heating ducts. They sleep totally undisturbed through the darkest months of the year, heavily protected by the very walls constructed to keep them out. And as the frozen topsoil finally begins to thaw and the spring sun warms the driveway, they will open their eyes directly inside human territory. We spent a century trying to pave over the wilderness, believing asphalt and property lines could keep the apex predators at bay. Instead, we accidentally engineered the perfect habitat for them. The East Coast suburbs are no longer a safe retreat from the wild. They are the new frontier of a quiet, ongoing invasion. Black bears have completely cracked the code of our neighborhoods, transforming our trash into daily fuel and our foundations into winter dens. The physical boundary is gone, and we have to face the unsettling reality that we are actively sharing our homes with a 400-pound resident. This shifting map of survival is happening all across the country, with different predators testing the limits of human territory every single night. Thank you for watching. If you want to track where these animals are pushing the line next and understand the silent wars happening right outside our doors, join the channel. We will keep following the wildlife that refuses to stay in the shadows. Stay safe out there.